Hello everyone, in this video we're gonna talk about how we can read and write to the console. In previous videos we talked about how to set up a local environment, how to install Visual Studio. We also talked in part 2 about namespaces, project and solution, and we created some basic console application. In this particular session we're gonna extend our knowledge of console. In this session, we will take input from the user and do something with that data. We're gonna cover topics like concatenation and interpolation. These topics are related to string manipulation. I will explain both of them and tell you what is good practice and what is the bad practice and why. Okay, let's open Visual Studio, create new project, choose console application, name it console demo. We will use .NET 8.0. When Visual Studio loads, we can delete this code in program CS and we will create our own. We can start by adding some console write line. As I mentioned in the previous video, to use code snippets, we use CW. It's a lot faster than typing by hand. Okay, now we let user enter his name. The method we use to read from console is console readLine. In this line, we read from console, but we need to capture this data. For that, we create new variable. In the previous video, we talked about what is the variable and how it can be used. Now, we can use console readLine to display user the welcome message. Okay, now run the application and see if everything works as expected. Okay, we get first message, please enter your name, Avisha. And when we type enter, we get this second message, welcome Nebush. Okay, now let's briefly explain what's going on right here. In this line of code, we use concatenation. Concatenation is simply adding to the existing string. We can use many strings, for example, something like this, but it's actually not a great practice because it does take more memory than the interpolation. Now let's see how we can do the same thing by using interpolation. Okay, so we do the same thing, console.writeLine. We type welcome. Now we use curly brackets and we can store value 0. I will explain. Okay, after the comma, we add this variable user input that we got from the user entering his name, and we will replace this placeholder right here, and after that we will add interpolation just to see the difference between these two. Now let's see how this works. Let's enter name. As you can see, we got pretty much same results. Both of our write-line message works, and concatenation and interpolation works as expected. We also have third way to use string manipulation, and the last one is actually most used one. So let's try that. This will be concatenation. This will be interpolation, and the last one also will be interpolation. Syntax for the last one is pretty much similar from the previous, and it goes like this. Before the double quotes we put $, we add double quotes, and let's type our welcome message. But now when we added the $, everything we put in this bracket will be displayed at this place. Let's try that. We put the user input right there, and after that we can type everything we want. Okay, let's see how this works in practice. Okay, as you can see, we got all three messages and everything works as expected. Now if we want to extend our logic and let user enter his last name, we can repeat the process and do something like this. First, we need to comment this code. You can use this button right here to comment the code and this button to undo, or you can use keyboard shortcuts Ctrl K, Ctrl C, and to undo the comment you can use Ctrl K, Ctrl U. And third way to comment this is by pressing backspace twice, and if you want to uncomment, just delete that two backspaces. Now we will let user enter his last name. Let's comment this code. In this line we will let user enter his last name. Now we need to read from console. And let's display this using console write line. We will use interpolation. Keep our code clean. We need to change our first variable because it can lead to misunderstanding of our code. We will use one of the refactorization tools to rename it. To actually rename the variable on every places we use it in the code, we can do something like this. Press Command and press R twice. In this window, we can actually include comments, include strings. As you can see, when I check this include comments checkbox, every user input variable is affected. And when I press include strings, it will affect if we have user input in hard-coded string like this. Usually we don't need these checkboxes, but let's test this. Let's change the actual name of the variable to something like first name. Press enter. As you can see, all variables in our code are changed. Another thing to point out is the C# is case sensitive, so if you try to do something like this, we'll have compile error. So this first name with the lowercase and this first name variable are completely different variables in C#. So we have to pay attention when we write code in C#. And we add now our last name. Let's see how this works. Okay, please enter your name, Nebojša. Please enter your last name. And when we press enter, we will have this message, hello Nebojša TechNeleGies. Okay, in this lesson, we learned how we can write to the console, how we can read from the console. We also covered the topic of concatenation and interpolation. The actual definition for concatenation is that is the process of appending one string to the end of the another string. You can concatenate string by using the plus operator. Interpolation allows developers to insert variables or expression into string literals. It provides a concise way to create formatted strings rather than concatenating multiple strings together. As I already mentioned in the video, the better way for string manipulation is to use interpolation. That would be pretty much everything for this video. I hope you learned something new. Thanks for watching and have a nice day.